Warning: the following episode of That Mental Ginger Show contains strong language and adult themes.
Alright, troops.
AJ, how are you doing, my friend?
I am very, very well. How are you?
I'm doing not bad, thank you. Just put the boys to bed so I can now finally relax.
That's a good thing.
No, definitely.
Relax with me.
Relax with AJ, that sounds like a podcast in itself.
It does, doesn't it? Maybe
go.
after 9 o'clock.
Yeah, that'll be a copyright. I'll get claims for the title. You should actually be very honoured. You're the only person that's appeared in every series of my show so far.
I know. I do. I was actually saying that to my sister the other day. I was like, I'm the only person who's been on it 3 times. I was like so excited. So, yay!
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you keep coming back. Well, it also just makes me wonder, what's wrong with you?
Lots of things, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah, definitely. So, your book, last time I checked, it was called Top My Bottom. Is it still that title, or is it a different title now?
Oh, so that was my 50 Shades of Gay style book. So that's kind of on the back burner just now. I am actually I'm working with another publisher just now on the Aaron Lockhart books. So we're still trying to get poor Aaron sorted. And he's not going to be ending now. He's going to carry on for a 4th book. So we'll see how that goes.
Aaron Lockhart is like Sam and Dean Winchester, Supernatural. You think they're going to get rid of them, and they just keep coming back for 15 more seasons?
Oh no. I wrote the perfect ending. I wrote a nice ending for poor Aaron. He's going to be happy and everything, and then it's like, nah, we want another book. Okay.
Yeah, so, that really is Supernatural, because that was meant to end at series 5, and then everybody was like, come on, let's just keep it going. And then, yeah, there they were, they got another 10 series out of it.
Exactly. So
I'd heard last time we spoke, you were talking about Netflix. Was there any progression with that?
Oh, well, not really. If the book does well with this new publisher, because they can actually promote the book better, and they'll do all the interviews and schedule things like that. They said if Netflix are interested in a wee deal, or if another TV show, or maybe a movie deal, I would get like 50% of it, so of the earnings of that. But who knows? It's all exciting.
If there's one thing I learned from being a massive dork, get merchandising rights in your name. That's how George Lucas is so rich, aside from the Disney deal.
That's some good advice. Aye. Do you want to be my merchandising manager?
As long as you can have just a random ginger figurine made so I can just keep it for me, then I'm okay with it.
Oh, I could write you in the new book, the 4th one. I could put you in the 4th Aaron Lockhart book. You can be the nemesis.
Oh, a ginger ninja.
Ginger ninja.
That's
quality.
Quality.
Like that.
Right there.
That is quality.
So for the 3 people that are probably watching this episode, as I like to say every single time, today we are going to be discussing the topic of the 90s versus the 2020s. We're going to go into different subjects and see which one comes out on top. So AJ is going to argue for the 90s. I'm going to argue for the 2020s, and probably like a bit of the 2010s, because we've only got 2 years of the 2020 so far. And I'm not going to lie, it's very, very hard to try and argue for this generation because they suck. They really, really suck. It's been so difficult. The only reason that I thought I need to argue it is because I've got kids that are in this generation. But even they suck. I love my boys
should have-
dearly, but man.
You should have chose the 90s, or at least the early 2000s.
I didn't even like me in the early 2000s. Come on.
Oh, I'd
Anyway,
like to see you in the early 2000s, actually.
there is a picture. There is a couple of pictures of me in the early 2000s. 18-year-old me with slick back, spiky ginger hair, like the Mosher jeans, like the Limp Bizkit hoodie.
I have seen them then.
It was not an attractive look. It was proper Mosher. I was surprised
That was a look back then, though.
Yeah, but I was surprised I got any action back then. Actually, wait.
Oh,
Come to think about it, actually, no, I didn't. So there we go.
gingers are on fire, though.
They weren't on fire in the 2000s. I was
They're
getting
not.
I was getting the crap kicked out of me on a daily basis because of this mop on the top.
I had a few gingers back in the day, by the way, so
Well,
it's true what they say.
in fairness, there's a lot of ladies who went with me afterwards that can say the same thing.
See, there you go. They've
Yeah.
been attacked. No, wrong word. They've had to play of being with a ginger ninja.
Oh man. Oh, I can
Have
see.
you missed this crazy?
No. Well, of course I've missed you. Of course I've missed you, AJ. Like, The Office is not the same without you. The Office is.
I think we all knew that.
I can't say anything about The Office because I'll probably get fired.
Yeah.
But there's no way anybody watches this. There's no way
Leave
anybody.
that office to the side.
Yeah, definitely. Right. So the categories that are in play are, and I'm going to read them off of my notes, so I will look down
Okay.
every now and then. Social, cultural, entertainment, fashion, and gaming. So we'll start with social, and I'll let you argue the point for the 90s.
Social for the 90s. Well, there wasn't really much social media around there, so you could actually socialise face to face with people in the 90s. You had such good, well, social from like a growing up like a child's kind of point of view. You got to play tag, colour tag, hide and seek, all great things. Wait, I've got a pop up here to things. So you got to have so much fun. Like, you got to run around crazy, knacker yourself out, and plus you got the best dinners ever. You got unhealthy dinners. You actually had bangers and mash, and no one complained.
Well, in fairness, my dinner was a ready meal, so yeah, I think we're pretty much still even on the unhealthy parts of it. It's just you have to search for it a bit more.
Yes.
My argument for this generation is actually what we're doing right now. We wouldn't have been able to do this in the 90s, especially with what's going on. If this pandemic kicked off in the 90s, we were screwed. There was like no way. We would have maybe had a landline telephone, and we would have had basic internet with that really, really rubbish dial-up that sounded like a fax machine having an orgasm. And then your parents had to kick you off because they were wanting on the computer. What you knocked me off the modem. Sorry, I was trying to have phone sex with my girlfriend.
You can't.
Yeah.
Because of the screeching noise coming down the line.
Well, it depended what they were into. It was a crazy time back then.
It was, wasn't it?
Now, obviously, with technology evolving in the way it has, I mean, we've got Zoom, we've got social media. That's it's a double-edged sword, but I think it's helped bring more people together than not. You've got, let's say, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. Not that I have a clue what that is. The same with Instagram, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm trying my best to argue it from this point, and feeling miserably.
You know what TikTok is?
No, I don't really have I know that Wellerman guy. got famous.
It's the
because of
crazy.
it.
It's people putting crazy videos of whatever, like crazy dances and stuff like this, and they'll do wee short videos on TikTok.
I know
Yeah.
I know about the Nathan Evans, the guy that did the Wellerman song. I know that he got famous through that. I didn't actually realise that I knew him. Yeah, his mum did karaoke at a pub I used to drink in, and he used to come up and sing songs.
Oh my god, what one?
The Wilson Arms in Airdrie. I had my stag do in there.
I don't think I've been there.
Oh, it's shut down now, sadly. But yeah, it was
Probably because I wasn't there.
Well, you really brought it. I actually made out with a divorcee there one time, but that's another story for another day.
We'll keep that for AJ After Dark.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so I would say technology-wise, for an agoraphobe like me, this is like my golden era because I don't need to leave the house, which is great for me, but it's not great when you're a dad because kids like to go out and play.
That's true, they do.
Yeah, but that also brings me on to the other point, like the smartphones, the tablets, the information that kids have access to now. It can be a blessing and a curse. Thank God for parental controls. But if I have to watch one more fecking video of Baby Shark, I swear to God.
Baby Shark, Baby Shark.
It went from Baby Shark to Wellerman, and now they're on to wanting the DuckTales theme tune. But they like both.
Oh, DuckTales was awesome.
Yeah, they like the 90s one and they like the modern day one, and I've got to watch both. And now I watch the modern day series more than they do.
Well,
it's really good.
Most parents do watch the kids' shows more than the kids do these days because it's all that's ever on.
It's really good though. Like David Tennant's Scrooge McDuck, and he's absolutely brilliant. He's just fantastic.
I did not know that.
You learn something new every day. But yeah, as much as I try to argue for the social aspect of this generation, I have to say I do miss the 90s. I do miss it. Don't get me wrong, I never went out in the 90s anyway, but at least then no one could actually contact me.
It's true.
If I wanted to stay in, I just stayed in. I just stayed in my room with my TV, my wee TV video combi, and just put on an episode of Hey Arnold or something. And that was me. I was set. I was set for life. It was brilliant.
Yeah, I'm very nostalgic for the 90s. I miss it.
Well, the 90s are in there because it's every 30 years that we get nostalgic for that. So last decade, the 2010's, it was the 80s. Everybody was nostalgic for the 80s. So it's the 90s decade right now to be brought back. So I cannot wait to see the re-emergence of Lecoq Sportif and Diadora.
Yes, I miss it. I still have a pair of them.
Yeah. Did you ever have the Adidas joggies with the buttons at the side?
Yes, and I did not like them because everyone would rip them up the side of my leg.
My brother's pal had ones and they were bright yellow. We called them Banana Man.
Oh, I remember them.
That was brilliant. It was so embarrassing, but it was fantastic. It was absolutely brilliant. So.
Oh no, I do miss. I must admit, I did like Adidas back then a lot. I had a lot of Adidas trackies. I wasn't an Ed or anything, but I had a lot of Adidas trackies and trainers.
Before I went to Mosher phase, like my teens, it was Adidas for me. My brother was Nike, so we covered the spectrum. What I would say.
What about the Nike Air Max trainers, the bubble ones?
Yeah,
I like them.
I couldn't afford them. I was always like Go or High Tech with the wee flashes.
Oh, High Tech! I had High Tech.
Yeah, they were the ones that like your teachers wore when you were going away in like the school day trip.
Right, like the gym shoes.
Yeah, definitely. I know in the social life for the 90s, when you went out, you could go to places like Woolworths, where they had the pick and mix right at the front and had no security, so it was a shoplifter's wet dream.
Wet dream?
Yeah. Well, you imagine just looking at those like big strawberry gummy lips going, I fancy.
Putting them on his pillow at night.
What in my case, kissing them before I went to bed.
Oh,
I'm going straight to hell. But yeah,
I'll be there right with you.
Well, I would safely say that because I'm getting so nostalgic for the 90s, I think social-wise, 90s takes the lead in this one.
It really does. It has to, because you had more of a life. You weren't glued to a screen all day. You were out getting exercise.
Yeah. For me,
it was the slimmest time of the year.
For me, this is my nirvana, this generation, because I don't need to go anywhere if I don't want to. There's so many options for me to be a hermit, but I know that I am very, very weird. So I don't like exercise. I don't like going out. I don't like being around people. People suck. I only like being around people that, I want to be around. So, consider yourself honoured.
Yeah. I consider myself honoured every day just to know you, Andrew. Well, it's a real pleasure.
It's flattering, but I know you're talking bullshit.
No, but you know what I'm like. I can barely stand to be around people myself.
Yeah.
That's probably why you click so much.
Definitely.
That and comic books and stuff like that.
So. Oh yeah, Marvel, DC, with the whole shebang. We just
Black Canary.
Yes.
Best ever.
Yep, your love of women that scream.
Yes. I do like women that can scream. Actually, I found watching Teen Wolf, the TV show, there's a banshee in it, and she screams, and hers is more kind of ooh, but it's great. So I found another woman that screams, which is surprising since I'm gay.
Well, because we're talking about Marvel and DC, that probably leads us aptly into the next category. So we'll just jump to entertainment.
Oh.
Now, I have to admit, I think I've got a slight advantage over you on this one.
I don't think so.
I'm quietly confident because 3 simple letters could probably win this for me. MCU. It would not have happened back then. They tried and failed miserably. I've seen some of the 90s Marvel stuff. Oh dear God, what were they thinking? But it's because they were almost dead in the water. If it was what we got, the resurgence of the MCU, we got the X-Men movies. Granted, they were in the start of the 2000s, but it's all bled in to where we are now. If you had said in the 90s that 30 years from now, not only would we have had a 23 movie cinematic universe about comic books, and that people would actually love them, and they would have spin-off series as well. They would also, the DCEU would be in its kind of state, but it was there. You had the Arrowverse, and more importantly, you told someone in the 90s this was all going to be popular with normal people. You wouldn't have survived. In the 90s, I got the crap kicked out of me for liking this type of stuff. It was something I had to hide, along with the fact that I liked Thomas. I had to hide all that stuff from everybody. Now I'm being revered and loved as the wise guru monk of Marveldom. It's brilliant.
Well,
it would be better if I actually liked people to, spread my knowledge to, but sadly the kids are going to be lumbered with that.
Oh, yes, superhero stuff back then was utter rubbish. However, I think for entertainment, I have still got you.
Right.
On a number of levels. One, Xena the Warrior Princess. The best TV show ever.
I thought you would like Hercules. Kevin Sorbo was the thing back in the day.
Oh no, but he was boring though. He didn't do anything.
Yeah, but for you, he must have done something. He did something for me, and I'm straight.
His wee sidekick did it for me.
I liked Xena's wee sidekick because of the red hair.
Oh, Gabrielle. Yeah, you can have her. I didn't like her.
Yeah.
But Xena was, oh my God, she was the best thing ever. She is the definition of a badass woman. I absolutely loved her.
I do think you have me on one specific thing, and it's Star Trek.
Oh God, no.
The Star Trek TV shows in the 90s were on fire. Like, you had the Next
Yes.
Generation, which was absolutely brilliant for someone like me. And then it bled into DS9 and Voyager. Granted, they were late 90s into the 2000s, but they still started in the 90s, so I'll count them. And I absolutely loved them. It was like my sanctuary. I mean, you had shows like Red Dwarf that started in the 80s, but really it came into prominence fully in the 90s as well. Like, so for sci-fi and stuff, the 90s definitely has it over kind of what's come now. Because everything's a reboot of a remake of a sequel of a prequel of a novel that was wrote by some guy that died 50 years ago.
Yeah.
So you just can't really. So in that point, I can't argue it, because it seems like nobody has original ideas nowadays.
Probably.
But at the same time, the quality of movie and the quality of TV show in particular has racketed up. You never would have thought in the 90s that TV would overtake movies as like the medium for grown-ups. I mean, with shows like Breaking Bad, The Wire, just to name who, Better Call Saul, Sons of Anarchy. These are just ones that I've watched.
But back in the day, and I still love it, but back in the 90s, wrestling, WWE or WWF back then, and versus WCW was absolutely on fire. It was banging for me. I absolutely loved it. Apart from the half-naked women, they didn't do anything for me, but the half-naked men did a lot for me. It may have helped me come out the closet, to be fair.
I just picture you watching Monday Night Raw with your dad looking at a Friday Night in Sky going, this is the right time to tell you this.
But Shawn Michaels is making me come out the closet.
Quite appropriate words.
Oh,
yeah.
He was hot.
I do have to admit, like, the 90s wrestling was brilliant. The Monday Night Wars were just fantastic. I loved watching all these wrestlers. I always say to my dad, it's the best soap opera on TV. You'd have minimal dialogue. People knocked the holy hell out of each other, and that was it. It was brilliant.
It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant.
And now, as much as it's evolved and in some ways for positives, but there's a lot of the negatives because it's all talking. I see the Channel 5. I see the Channel 5 highlights on a Sunday morning because it's on after SpongeBob. that my boys watch, and I have to do like a wee dance to the theme tune that I do with them and stuff like that. So I get to see that, and it's just, I'm like, when's somebody gonna knock this guy out? They're just talking constantly. Even in Raw, which was meant to be the edgier brand, all they do is talk.
Really not.
All they do is talk.
The two best things about wrestling right now, three best things about wrestling right now, forgot someone, but one, Finn Balor, the hot Irishman, Sasha Banks, who I'd go straight for, and that's saying something, and then Randy Orton. Like, they're the best things about wrestling right now. Absolutely brilliant.
I have to admit, I do like Charlotte Flair, mainly because of
relation. No! Andrew, no!
I just wanted to see your reaction on that one. It's because I watched the Nature Boy documentary on Disney Plus about Ric Flair, and oh my god, it was so illuminating. I'm surprised that guy's still alive. It's unreal.
Me too, actually. I'm very surprised.
Then again,
very, very surprised.
Then again, he's surprised he's still alive. So.
Yeah, I think he is actually surprised. I think, after all the blows to the head he's had and all the blows he's had downstairs, I'm surprised he can stand.
Yeah, I think that's a realistic outcome. But
yeah,
no, I think I've maybe slightly edged you in the entertainment side, especially if you look at you'll get Star Wars as well. It went through a slump with the prequels, and then you get the stuff like Clone Wars, Rebels, The Mandalorian now. Some of the highly respected directors in the game that have came out in this time period, like Jon Favreau, he basically created two universes. Dave Filoni for Star Wars. Wow, it's been a fantastic time to be alive for a guy like me who back in the 90s wouldn't have liked all that stuff. He wouldn't have known what women smelt like.
Well, let's be honest though, but Star Trek, Star Wars, exact same thing. There's no Look at your face talking there. There is no difference.
AJ, it was a pleasure having you on the show.
Okay, I'll see myself out. Oh, I've still got one more from the 90s.
All right.
Britney Spears.
Well.
Like,
She's
she's every teenage boy's dream.
She definitely wasn't mine. Definitely was not mine. That was Lita. Lita from the wrestling. It was my dream.
Yeah, actually, she was pretty hot. But Britney obviously was the 90s it girl.
Yeah, but that's if anything, this is a double-edged sword when it comes to music, because my music taste really took off in the noughties, with like the rise in nu metal, like the combination of like rock and rap that came with it. And you had obviously Eminem was in the 90s where hip hop he really broke into the scene at that point. And Guns N' Roses even though they were in the 80s, they achieved a good level of success in the 90s, and they are like they are my favorite band of all time. But at the same time, there was such dross. There was so many bad acts. Don't get me wrong, compared to now, they're bloody legends. Because some of the acts that are on these days,
It's like watching a cheesy Eurovision.
Oh, did you watch Eurovision?
I did.
That destroyed my faith in humanity until Finland came on. Finland restored my faith in all that was good in the world. That song was brilliant, and ever since I've listened to it, I've just blasted through their back catalogue on Spotify. They're absolutely fantastic. I just love them. I love them, especially since they came on after Germany. I thought Alison spiked my drink.
Depressing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just sat and watched it, and I was like, how could these guys who started 2 world wars come to this? It made me miss the rise of fascism. It was that bad. It was so bad.
It made me miss a lot of things in life.
Yeah.
But
I don't think the UK deserved to be bottom, but it was not good. The lyrics and the tune were good, but the singer, she did a different singer.
I thought he was all right. It wasn't the best song, but he was all right as a singer. But you couldn't beat El Diablo, the woman in red, singing El Diablo. I mean, that was pretty a good song.
Yeah, there was a few that everybody was like, oh, that's good. The Italy one reminded me of if your gran said she liked metal music, just to try and be hip.
Oh, I'm just horrible flashbacks to Italy.
Yeah. No,
great country, but
it really made me think that Alison had accidentally switched the channel and got a subscription to the adult channels, because I was like, what are these guys wearing? My mum,
I can see the connection.
Yeah, my mum said that reminded her of The Darkness, and I was like, never thought of it like that. And it does a bit when you think about it, just especially with the type of attire that they had, aside from the lead singer. But yeah, all the stuff that was coming out about them being on drugs, but they were in Eurovision. You need to be on drugs to get through that.
Yeah, you kind of do. Especially, what was that song, Voices? Who sang that? It was the very attractive black man that was on it, and he was singing it. It sounded like bagpipes at the start.
Was that the guy from the Netherlands?
Oh, it might be, because I thought we were getting a Scottish song because it sounded like bagpipes at the start. And then he came out with this song, and I've actually fallen in love with it. I know the name of the song's Voices, but I just can't remember what country.
Alison liked Switzerland. She liked Switzerland's entry, and it was that it was like a younger guy, and it was just him like on a black stage, like kind of white background.
Aye,
but
I remember him.
the song was good, but he just kept doing all the weird diva kind of moves, like the whole shooting the arm up in the air and down, and then like going out with that.
He reminded me of Adam Lambert.
Let's not diss Adam Lambert. He's good.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah,
He's like a god in my eyes, but still.
He came in the 2000s when he's still prominent with Queen. There we go.
He's still beautiful as well. Oh.
Once again, you're arguing the point for me in the entertainment side. You're clawing it back to me.
Yeah. I have to plug in my charger. My battery's going to run low. I'll
All
be
right.
2 seconds.
Okay. Well, I'll see if I can hit the pause button. So, sorry, AJ, but I think based on the points, well, I've got to take this one. I've got to take this round.
Okay, I'll let you have that one.
All right. So we're one
Brittany
apiece.
will be disappointed.
In fairness, Justin Timberlake won't be as disappointed.
Oh, it's a different guy altogether, isn't it?
Yeah. So we'll move on to the next one. The next one that probably ties in gaming.
Oh, yes.
Right. Now, I'm really going to have to try and think of positives for this generation because I loved the 90s gaming because you had no one else around you. You didn't need to worry about going online and being massacred by a 12-year-old from Indonesia.
No, but I had my mum steal my control pad to play Mario all the time, and I had to sit and watch my mum do the levels. But you cannot beat the 90s gaming.
It was brilliant. I mean, Sega Mega Drive 2, N64. Well, I mean, the noughties brought us the PS2, so it's kind of on my side with that bit. But those two consoles that I've just mentioned alone, I still mentioned the Super Nintendo.
Oh,
back when you thought having like 4 players was like overload. When you got the N64, I was like, wait, you can get 4 people playing at once?
It was a big deal.
When Mario Kart 64, this is brilliant. I mean, the only thing I could maybe think of to kind of go for mass side is that you can get all of those games now on like one handheld device for like half the money that you would have spent on it all. But at the same time, the experience of it was just brilliant. I mean, I remember getting the Sega Mega Drive 2 Christmas Day. I think it was 6 or 7. And I was just over the moon. And me and my brother were battling lumps at each other playing Street Fighter 2, and then battling lumps at each other in real life because of who won Street Fighter 2. And that was the good part. Like you could just like argue with the person right next to you that you were playing. Now you just like type a bunch of like little threats over a keyboard, and it doesn't really have the same effect. Or you're hooked up to like a wee microphone, just going, "You suck."
That's true. But I fell in love with a little fat plumber called Mario. And when we got the first original Nintendo, the grey wee box with the big chunky discs, and you shoved them in. That didn't sound right, but you put them in. I walk right into these things. It's crazy. Oh, brilliant. Shove them in there.
It could have been worse. Like you could have been saying like you had to shove them in, and then when it didn't work, you had to take them back out and blow on them and put them back in again. I
did actually blow on them a few times.
See, if somebody tells you that they did not blow on the consoles, they are liars. They are liars.
Everybody blew on the consoles.
You had
that sounded so dirty, but it's true.
It's true. Then blowing is a natural way of life.
Exactly. Blowies. Everyone. I'll stop right there. Just in case
everyone loved a blowy.
They do love a blowy.
Don't worry. There's going to be a content warning. Don't worry, because I won't be censoring any of this. This is too good.
I'll go further. But then Super Mario Bros. 3, I loved that game the most because it had the Cooper kids in it.
Yes.
And I had a vendetta with one Miss Wendy Cooper. She was my nemesis. Her bouncing up and down and flinging the hoops in the air. Oh, the day I finally defeated her was my moment of glory. Only took me about 50 chatting chances. the beta, but I did it.
You don't really get that anymore because you can get all the cheats and stuff online now.
I know.
Which is quite
What?
sad. But one thing that I'll argue for my side, as much as I think we both agree that the 90s are going to win this one because
Hands down.
it's a hands down win. I'm sorry, what? But I will say, graphics and technological design have just radically improved.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the kind of, you've still got a kind of like console war. I mean, back then it was like Nintendo v, like, you know, Sega. Now it's kind of evolved into Xbox v PlayStation. So you've still got that kind of thing. And as much as the ability to connect with other people annoys me, if it seems to have benefited a global gaming community. But even back in the 90s, like the board games, even taken away from online and from like actual like Connect 4, Mousetrap.
Oh, I love Mousetrap.
Guess Who?
Hungry Hippos.
Hungry Hippos, Snakes and Ladders.
Cluedo.
Yes. Like all of these games that we got exposed to in our generation, and now kids will probably look at them and be like, that. But we loved it. Those are the things that will probably be on your phone now. You can just download an app that lets you play Cluedo or something. The same with like, I mean, even just like actual like card games. Like I remember playing like solitaire and poker and that with my pals like in high school and stuff, and it was a nice event, like that type of gaming event. You don't, because all that's online now, like, and it really makes Las Vegas redundant.
It does. It really does, because when I was in Vegas, there was the classic games you got to play, like the classic Huggy machines and stuff like this. But you had people playing games or winning prizes on their mobile phone. So technically, your face was still on your phone. You were playing someone else in the casino. Everyone was on their phones winning money. And I thought, well, that kind of defeats the purpose of Vegas.
Definitely.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still a cool idea. So you can still play from your hotel room if you wanted to, but it defeats the idea. And I think a lot of gaming nowadays, because technology is amazing now, but it does take the social aspect out of life, and it does. And kids don't tend to run out and play. You don't really see kids out your window running up down the street playing as much.
Come down to my estate one night, and you'll hear them before you see them.
Screaming at the computer.
Just screaming in general. That's just about it.
Well,
but yeah, I do get what you mean.
Tell them to shut up, we'll be fine.
Yeah, but if someone told my kids to shut up, I'd lamp them. So.
Well, that's a different story, though. But they can't say it to your kids, but we can say it to theirs. It's fine.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah.
One good thing about technology, I must admit, without it, throughout this whole pandemic, without technology, I think we were all being snookered, because we get to work from home, we get to still entertain ourselves, and you need Wi-Fi for that especially. So I think, in a way, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, but when it's used for the right reasons, like during this pandemic, it's been brilliant. So,
yeah.
Yes.
I know it has been good for the pandemic, but also, what you said, is a double-edged sword, because everything is Wi-Fi now. Everyone's so reliant on Wi-Fi and broadband, and you need to get it needs to be faster, and quicker, and stronger connection and better graphics, and it's that constant like race for more. Like in the 90s, we were just kind of on the cusp with that, but we still had kind of who we were. We both wound up like arguing each other's reverse points, but I think it's because we knew 90s was going to win without a shadow of a doubt when it came to gaming.
Definitely, like 90s would have won the gaming purely because it's new. Well, it's never not. Gaming's always been there in some retrospect, but in the 90s it really hit its peak. It was brilliant.
It really was. I can't lie.
I loved it.
Yeah, because I don't like it.
My brother's got a classic Nintendo still.
Oh, my brother's got the N64.
Right from the 90s.
Nice.
It doesn't work now though, but
Still nice to have.
yes.
Right, so it's safe to say that gaming in the 90s is one, so it's 2-1 to you.
Yay!
Okay, now we're going to go to one that I may just have you on.
Ooh.
Cultural.
Um.
So I'm talking about, how our culture has advanced over time, and for in particular, and I'm just gonna like dig straight in. I mean, you're gay.
Yes.
You wouldn't have survived in the 90s, or you would have survived, but
Oh,
only
I got
just.
severely bullied in the 90s. Like, well, I mean, I had horrific things happen to me in the 90s, and that's even before I came out of the closet.
Yeah.
And I had horrific things happen. So,
Yeah.
culture was definitely a horrible thing in the 90s.
It definitely was.
Definitely.
Like society was nowhere near as kosher as it is now. And you think about, like, it's only 30 years. I know people will say, well, it's still 3 decades, but you think about how far everything's come, like, just in the space of time. Like, for example, like the banning homosexuality and gay marriage, which was a thing back in the 90s. It's not now.
Yeah.
Well, there is an ongoing problem with racism. It's better now than it was back then. Much better than it was back then. Even though there still is a lot of work to be done. There's still obviously issues with, like, homophobia, transphobia, all that kind of stuff, but nowhere near as bad as it was in the 90s. The only thing I don't like is the cancel culture, because sometimes it can go a bit OTT. But overall, we're far better off. We're far better off now than we were 30 years ago. Even though I'm not of the same persuasion as you, I'm very sensitive.
Yeah.
Very, very sensitive. I'm in tune with my feelings. I'm in touch with what they called it back then, my feminine side.
Yes, that's true.
That's what they called it back then, and it was meant to be an insult. Back then, it was meant to be seen that you weren't allowed to be in touch with your feminine side or show emotions. Men weren't allowed to cry.
You weren't a man if you showed your feelings.
Man up.
Yes.
The two words that plagued everybody.
You showed your feelings.
Yep.
Oh.
Because I was sensitive, and I liked the arts and theatre, and I was rubbish at sports. All that stuff, everybody just assumed Paul Smoker.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you had those type of words those phrases thrown at you, and it was just regular. It was just off the cuff. Everybody was like, that's just what you say. Whereas now they're rightly being called out and told that's not okay anymore.
Yeah, and there should have been laws in place back in the 90s, because just because someone is gay, lesbian, or if someone is black or Chinese, the one thing that I always questioned was, what gives a government, what gives anybody the right to bully, harass, even murder someone because in their heads they're saying that's wrong? Who told them it was wrong in the first place?
Exactly.
So that's what I didn't like, how bad the dictators were back in the 90s, not just in the UK but worldwide. And there are some countries, and I know there's a lot of people still in that mindset that they're homophobic, they're racist and all that stuff, and you'll never get rid of them. I always feel that it's the older generations who are still stuck in this persuasion that are sort of putting that poison back into society. And
even some things that you don't expect to be what a thing still are with some. An example that I recently had was, as you know, even though I'm sensitive, I do like football. I like watching football.
Yeah.
And I was keeping tabs of, like, not only the men's football but the women's football as well. And it was around the time of the Women's World Cup. Scotland were in it, and I was buzzing because I was like, Scotland have got to a tournament. Doesn't matter if it's men's, women's, toasters, whatever. Scotland are there. Yeah. I was so happy. and people kept saying to me, aye, but it's women's football, that doesn't count. I'm like, half of them could probably wipe the floor with you.
Yeah.
And they played brilliantly. They played out their skin. They were fantastic, absolutely brilliant. And they showed a passion and a desire to play for the jersey that the men's football at that point for national football was not being shown. They were doing brilliantly because they cared.
Yep.
But a lot of people are just like, it's women's football, doesn't matter. Even people who I thought were a bit more tolerant were still like, women's football. And when I remember watching an episode of Match of the Day with some male acquaintances, and there was one of the women's footballers on the panel, and one of them just went, oh, she's a bird, what does she know about football? I'm like, a lot more than you, because she's in that chair and you aren't they?
Exactly. Why judge someone or ridicule something like, or that person is, they're the professional. Mm-hmm. They put the work, they put the effort in, they're there. Mm-hmm. So their opinion matters because they're playing the game regardless if you like it or not. They're there, they're mm-hmm. living it, and you're physically telling someone, like, I mean, I've had this conversation recently as well with a certain person that I won't mention, but he is of an older, I suppose, generation, and he said the exact same thing. I don't want to listen to a woman tell me how football works, and it's kind of like you're telling her that she can't have her own passion, she can't go for her goals or dreams because she's a woman and she shouldn't be in that world. Like, that's wrong. And that's terrible that as a society, those women would have grew up hearing that. You can't do this, you can't do that. I've always said women are strong, they're tough. They can do a hell of a lot more or just as good as what men can do. And they are unfairly judged.
Definitely.
And when I heard an American wrestler say this, an American wrestler said his wife should be in the kitchen barefoot, pregnant, making him dinner. And I was like, wow, that's your perception of women when you're around female wrestlers who are actually putting the effort in the craft. And that's the perception that women have had for years. And I think that was wrong because my sister is as tough as nails. My sister-in-law is as tough as nails, and they're hard workers, they're strong individuals, and they work so hard. And they deserve the respect.
Definitely. Definitely. It's the same with my wife. My wife is one of the strongest people that I've had the privilege to share my life with, which is absolutely amazing. She's strong, she's confident, she doesn't take any crap for anybody. And at the same time, we balance each other out because I'm the sensitive side. And that should, just as we're saying, like, that should be allowed for guys as well. I'll make her dinner for her coming in from work. Not tonight, sadly, so I'm sleeping on the couch. but even be able to have those type of jokes, and I'll do the ironing on a Saturday, so she gets a wee bit of a break. When the weekends come, I want to help more with the boys. I want to be, I'm a hands-on dad, and that's something that's changed over time, which has been great because, like, when I was a baby, my dad never changed a nappy. Now my boys are born, he still never changed a nappy. It's just not something that men did back then. They just went out, they worked, they came home, and then they would go to the pub at the weekends. I'm not saying that my dad did that exclusively, but that was the perception. That's just what you were meant to do.
Whereas, it's a generational thing.
Whereas even though sometimes I look at that with envy when the kids are driving me around the bend and I'm just like, I just want to go out and get away, I genuinely could not imagine not having that time with my boys. Yeah, they drive me up. Yes, they drive me up the wall, but I love that I can go up to them and give them a big hug and say, I missed you today and I love you so much. And they say it back to me, and I can give them a big cuddle, and I love putting them to bed at night and giving them big kisses and cuddles and telling them how much I love them and how proud I am of them, and then going in at just as I'm going to bed to make sure they're not, if they're in the same bed, I'll go and put one of them back in their own bed and just give them a wee kiss and just look at them and go,
that's cute. That's really nice, and that is a true dad right there. Yeah. So that's really cool.
You know, and it's just but if you said you did that in the 90s, they would be saying, right, so when you come in at the closet, your wife's clearly your beard. That would be it. That would just be the way it was.
Oh, aye. The 90s was horrible. I mean, like, in school, especially high school, that was like the worst time of my life is in high school. And I mean, it took a long time, but I can talk about it now, but I had a lot of emotional trauma back from the abuse and not just from school kids as well, from adults as well. And the trauma is just horrible. And if I'm lucky enough to have one kids one day, I would never ever want them to go through that. And that's why this is why I'm not quite as, I am really glad that the culture has changed. I mean, like even back then as well, if you were mixed race or if you were a black person, and you got it just as bad, probably worse than anybody back in the 90s. And it was horrific for them. And that's why I feel it's so sad to see that sort of kind of racism come back again in this day and age. I think it's horrific and it's so sad because, like, every human being is a person. They've got every right to live in this life, this earth, as much as anybody else does. And I just think it's horrible that, you know, young black children are growing up in a world what their parents thought they were away from, and it's back in a horrible way. But I would hope, if anything, that COVID's taught people, you know, life is far too short. You could catch this disease and you could be gone. So it's time to start changing your ways of thinking, and it's time to start appreciating everybody. Doesn't matter, you know, what gender they like or what colour their skin is, what colour their hair is. It's time just to, you know, start realising that life is precious, and it's, if you don't want to mix with someone, then don't mix with them. Just don't make that person feel bad for being them. Like, let live and move on. That's the kind of, I wish the world was better.
Yeah, I think we all do right now. Well,
Yeah.
and as much as we've still got a long way to go, I'd much rather that my kids are growing up in this time culture-wise than what we went through 30 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I've had to have a year of therapy just to try and get through some of the rubbish that's been holding on to me for years, because I don't want it to affect my sons. What?
I know, and it's horrible. And you will find that any kid who grew up in the 90s has that emotional sort of effect from it. I mean, I think I've spoken to even my friends, like my other friends, like who I went to school with, and they all had the similar stories that they had this trauma. They get bullied really badly, and I mean, it was something as people were getting bullied for something as silly as having red hair. I mean, it was crazy, and I still remember one of the girls I went to school with, and that was it. She got all these horrible names threw at her because of her hair colour, and I thought to myself, I mean, like, nowadays it's not so bad, but like back then, people were getting ridiculed for something like that, and you just thought to yourself, like, the mindset of people back in the 90s was so small-minded, so closed off, and we're lucky that our generation grew up and then realised that's not right. And we should actually take a break, because we changed that perception. We changed the perception of the 90s and took a new positive attitude into the noughties, and then and right now as well. Because we grown up, we experienced it, we knew it wasn't right, and we changed it. And it's because of our generation that it changed. Because we didn't have the same perception.
Yeah. Sadly, I think one of the worst parts of it was, though, like in the 90s, we actually thought we were coming on quite well. It isn't until you get the benefit of hindsight that you realise actually we still had a long way to go. And it will probably be the same in another 30 years' time. We'll probably look at stuff from now and be like, well, that wasn't okay back then, or that wasn't okay back then, but we thought we were doing the right thing. So history is very subjective. We'll have to see how it's going to go.
That'll change.
But that's, I
Unless
think,
the legends, unless they go back in time and make it better, then we can only hope.
no, there's one thing we've learned from Legends is that when they go back in time, they screw it up even worse.
But they've got Sarah Lansdale, but so we can forgive them.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I think we spent enough time on cultural, but but it's evened us up at 2 apiece. So this is the deadlock, and it'll need to be relatively quick because I think we're going to be pushed for time. Well, I'm not sure how long I get on Zoom recording, but this one is fashion. Now, we touched on this briefly when we were talking about society part. Now I'm conflicted because the 90s had some great fashion, but also some stinkers. And it's the same with now. We've got some good fashion, but we've also got some really, really duff fashion. It's unreal. It's unreal. I mean, like, so for example, 90s haircuts.
Oh.
I'll look at some of the photos from me back then, begrudgingly, if my mum has managed to pull them out of whatever like archive that she's found them in, and I think, what was my mum smoking letting me have that haircut?
Was it the side shed?
No, it was a Beatles bowl cut kind of thing.
Oh.
The best part was I never even got a bowl cut. It was just the way it's just the way my hair grows in. It grows in that kind of frizzy way, but it's not like an afro. It's just frizzy. So I mean, you've seen it like when we worked together. Like you saw when my hair was longer, it did look a bit like I was auditioning to be in a Beatles cover band. But now imagine. Yeah, but imagine that. Imagine that's a 6-year-old with Harry Potter glasses, which I had as well. Harry Potter glasses before they were cool.
And in the 90s, those glasses would have been taken off your face and broken.
They were a couple of times.
Oh, typical.
It happened like actually one of the times I went to school when I had my bowl cut and I had my glasses on, but went to the opticians when it turned out I didn't need to wear them anymore, and I was like, dancer. And then when I went and got a haircut and just got all shaved. It wasn't like bald or anything, it was just like number 2, so still had a bit of hair. When I went to school the next day, people thought I was a new student. People were coming up to me like wanting to show me around. I'm like, guys, it's me. I'm like, what happened? I'm like, I got a haircut. I don't need my glasses anymore. That's it.
Oh, that's tragic. Oh, well, I mean, I was ignored. I could have the coolest hairstyle ever in the 90s and I was still ignored. People actually could walk through me, you know.
The funny story was one of my friends in primary 7, he turned up with like a kind of spiked up hair and dyed like that kind of white blonde. So it looked a bit like Guile from Street Fighter 2.
Sounds like Spike from Buffy.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. We're not insulting Spike. Don't
okay, I'll take that one back since it did insult Star Trek and Star Wars. I'll take that Spike one back.
Yeah, but the irony was that from that moment we knew that he was gay.
Oh.
And we were right.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally, I've been there.
we knew straight away. So when he finally came out to us in 4th year of high school, so that was 5 years later, when he said, "Look, I've got something to tell you, I'm gay," we all just went, so?
That's what it should be.
It was like we all knew from the day you had that god awful hairstyle in 1999. So didn't bother us then, doesn't bother us now.
He knew the way was gay.
Gay was the way.
Gay's always the way.
Irony was, I eventually hooked up with his brother.
Oh! And it didn't stick.
No, but I knew that I was straight. He didn't. he thought he was gay, and I'm like, you're not gay, so stop acting like you're gay, especially because your brother is gay. It's insulting. He's like, you don't know if it, what you don't you say at me. And I just went, right, you know, dragged him into the bathroom and snogged him.
Oh, I remember you telling me that
Yeah,
story.
yeah. I just went, so how'd that feel? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, if you don't know, then you're not gay. And he's like,
Oh, well, I mean, there's other ways to identify if you're gay or straight, but you do know
yeah,
deep
but
down.
remember this was 2000s, so we still weren't as, and we're teenagers. We're not as
No.
we weren't not as woke as we are now. What? But he just looked at, he was like me. He's like, well, how did you feel? I was like, I felt nothing, but I know I'm straight. Bye.
So you do know though, but you know
Yeah.
deep down, like you can doubt your sexuality and you can have these different feelings and these what ifs, but you know deep down who you are as a person. So
And there's
I mean,
nothing. There's nothing wrong on either side to, you know,
well,
double check essentially.
it's always good to double check. I mean, like if you see an attractive straight man and you think you have gay feelings and you want to kiss him, then it benefits me. I've just kissed an attractive straight man, so there you go. You can be confused all you want.
I mean,
If it benefits me, then I'm in.
Well, men can have men crushes. It's possible. It happens.
It does.
Just the way it goes. Doesn't bother me.
It does.
The same deal.
However, talking about men crushes, the Backstreet Boys, when they had the curtains hair, when their hair was the curtains, Nick Carter with those curtains was freaking beautiful.
Yeah, in the 90s, you knew if someone had that curtain hair, you were going to lose your girlfriend.
Yes.
You knew
the
straight
curtains,
away.
Yeah.
The second you saw that look, you're like, okay, well, you just go with him now.
Aye, so you had the bowl cut, which was just horrific. Then you had the curtains, which was, an invitation into that person's pants, really.
Yeah.
Pants.
Remember the curtains and they had the wee curl in the front?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, they had the wee flick.
Too.
Yeah, they had the wee kind of. Yeah, you had to be kind of permy look for the guys. That was the Justin.
I like that look.
That was early. I know. I think that was just 2000s was NSYNC or early 90s as well.
Yes, Justin Timberlake. He introduced that into the world.
That kind of curly look.
And then you had the flick back look.
Same with David Beckham.
I think that was technically maybe 80s into 90s.
Yeah, 90s David Beckham was all the rage with his hair and and his style. That also brings me back to the point that the 90s fashion was also pretty bad.
The bell bottoms. Like, I remember bell bottom jeans, they were horrific. And you had oh my God, do you ever remember the jeans with the buckles round the legs?
Yes.
That was bad.
God. Yeah, they were That
horrible. Was so bad. And then you had the cheesy, tracky look in the 90s.
One colour.
I mean, one colour. We all loved the trackies, right? But I mean, it was a bit much.
Yeah.
And then you had the fabric, Alessi.
Yeah. What was that?
Your legs.
What was that weird nylon kind of color, like fabricy stuff as well?
It was horrible.
Wow,
it made you sweat places.
Yeah, it also had it was a really weird fabric, and it just ripped your nipples to shreds. Every time you wore it, it was like someone just put you into a restraining jacket. It's horrible.
Yes. Oh, and let's not forget the leather rollerblades that looked like bright yellow, and they were like bananas on your feet.
Oh.
And they were all leather material. So when you were skating and your foot slipped, then your ankle twisted and you went over. Oh, that was horrific.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then the roller boots, remember them? I mean, they were roller discos, the 90s roller discos, they were horrific. Because the fashion was short mini skirts with polka dots.
Yeah.
And the guys had white suits on with the popped up collar.
Did you ever go to a YMCA disco?
Oh, well, I didn't personally go, but I knew my mum and dad did.
No, they had they had kids YMCA discos in Airdrie, and I was a man whore. Yeah.
So you went to a roller disco in the 90s?
Yeah, and
You have to have pictures of this.
thankfully I don't, but I always remember it. I remember I would always go in, I would sit down, I'd have a packet of Polo Mints and a can of ordinary iron brew, and I'd just sit, just listen to music, and then girls would just come up to me, ask me if I wanted to dance. I'd go up and dance, snog them, sit back down again, wait for the next one.
Did you listen to Bewitched while you were doing this?
C'est la vie. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and one of the times my mum sent my brother with me to make sure that I was, safe. I think it was, I don't know how long I've been doing this for, but yeah, I didn't need my brother around. But so at one of the points, during the night, I'm just kind of chilling with this girl. My brother kind of drags me away. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what the hell, man? What the hell? I'm like, why are you drenched in iron brew? Turns out what had happened was, during that night, I'd danced with a girl and snogged her, and then just did my usual, went back, just sat down in my seat. So then wait for another girl, went up, was dancing with her, and was snogging her. But this girl saw this, and then later on in the night, when I was dancing with another girl, she went over to my brother thinking it was me and flung the drink of iron brew in his face.
Oh.
So he got up and was like, what the hell was that for? And obviously my brother was a considerable bit taller than me, and so I was just like, you're not Andrew. Like, no, I'm his older brother. She's like, do you know where he is? I was like, nah, I haven't seen him. I was right behind her winching another lassie. So she went off. Like, my brother basically saved my butt. Yeah, and it was just, so I just basically finished winching this lassie, went to sit down with her, and then that's when Daniel came over and dragged me away because he's like, you bloody owe me. You owe me. He's like, you don't just owe me a drink, you owe me an entire new outfit, you owe me your pocket money for the next month, and what, just run the list down. I'm like, and I was just more like, I'm not gonna tell my mum, are you?
Yeah, because that would have been worse.
Yeah.
Than the scolding he gave you, the scolding your mum gave you would be worse.
Yeah. The irony was, that wasn't even the last girl that I kissed that night. My record was 13.
So you're actually a legend. You are a ginger legend.
My record was 13 girls in one night.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just kissing.
Just kissing. I was only primary 6, man. Come on. I was only 10.
It was the 90s.
Yeah, but I know it was Airdrie, but I wasn't like that in that way. Yeah, but it turned out that was a false dawn because the second I went to high school, I didn't even realise what women smelled like.
Well, now you do.
Yeah. Well, as far as my boys are concerned, it was just they're test tube babies.
Oh.
What? Yeah. Me and your mum, we never done that. Ever.
No naughty cuddles. That was wrong.
No, your mum didn't wind up in hospital 2 days after our wedding night.
Oh.
Don't worry, she doesn't watch this anyway. We're all good.
Kids, right? Like, see when they get to the age where they want to snog the girls or boys, depending on which way they go.
Doesn't matter which way they go. What?
I would just tell them, if you're going to have naughty cuddles, you'll be disappointed in them. But if they do have naughty cuddles, make sure they wear a rubber.
I'll just
make sure they're secure.
Yeah. My main advice, if I have to have the talk, because I never got the talk. But did you get the talk?
Did you not? Oh God, I did. It was embarrassing.
No, I never got the talk. But because I walked in one of the days at second year high school, we just had the sex ed thing. I just walked in and went, right, Dad. We had sex ed and PSE, personal social education. I was like, I know how it works. I don't have any questions. You're off the hook. And I walked away.
Oh, I think my mum thought I was very promiscuous as a wee boy, so I definitely got the talk.
My brother got the talk. But the talk was, if you get her pregnant, it was, if you get her pregnant, I'm cutting it off.
I mean, that is quite good advice, actually. It's quick and straight to the point.
Yep, simple, to the point. But in fairness, I think my dad still thought I was gay up until I was 17. So, well, I think he didn't thought, oh, I don't need to worry about it anyway.
Well, if you were gay, Andrew, you would have been a great addition to the gay family.
I had gaydar. I had more advances at one point from guys than I did girls. And I got to say,
that, by the way.
And I got to say, I didn't mind it.
I'll give you a wee inside secret. Gay men love a good ginger.
They really do.
They do. Yes. Yeah. Prince Harry, oft, I'd have him in a minute.
Yeah. Well, like.
I'd want to be a prince too.
Definitely. I think we're kind of.
Glenn Boyd.
I probably just actually leads us back into fashion, because obviously when Harry and were younger, because they are close to our age as well, and they wore essentially the same kind of stuff that we did. Granted, they had for formal things, it was like suits and ties and stuff, but when it was out with their mum and stuff, they were in the multicolored trackies and stuff. And it always seemed to look better on them than it did on us.
That's true, it did, but they had remember the suits? The shirts that had the material a t-shirt's made of.
Yeah.
And it's a shirt. And then you had the same sort of thing, like a woolen, or it may not be woolen, but it was like that kind of weird material suit. And it was hot, it was itchy. That's the suits that they wore.
Yeah,
and they made it look good. They made it look good, whereas I'm like, oh, it's too itchy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But naked fashion on a Sunday, I hated Sunday wear in the 90s. You had to wear the big, horrible, ballooned up, fluffy cardigans and
there are pictures of me and my brother wearing matching outfits on Sundays and stuff. Bear in mind, he's 3 years older than me. Don't get me wrong, you look back and then you go, oh, it was cute. Back then we were like, this is humiliating.
It was torture by the parents. My mum put me, my brother and my sister in the exact same pajamas. I kid you not. The only difference was my sisters had some sort of cute little puppy on them, and we had bears, which is, by the way, considering I do like a bear now. Back then, that was horrible. I mean, me and my brother, the side shed haircut, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. I remember at one point I was sick of my red hair and I wanted it dyed. So I dyed it. I wanted it dyed kind of a nice blondie colour. It came out gold, a weird kind of gold colour. So I got absolutely slated because Eminem was at the height of his popularity at that point, and at that point he had the peroxide hair. Walking out the class, members going, "Will the real Slim Shady please stand up?" I'm like, "Fuck off."
If it helps, if we went to the same school, I'm not going to lie, I would have probably hit on you. I would probably hitting on you a lot, because you seem quite similar taste to me. So yeah, I would probably hit on you.
Yeah, I would have been okay with that.
I would have been hitting on you constantly. Yeah. I could maybe try to turn you gay, you know, because in the 90s you might have thought, I'm wearing this 90s outfit. Should I be gay in this 90s outfit? You know, and then just change with the times like Harry Styles does.
Which brings us now to trying to argue the point for today's styles. I just don't think I can, because it's just better. Some parts of it are better, like things are coordinated.
Thank God for Hollister and Boohoo Man.
It's all that. See what the kind of the quote unquote normal outfits. Like for us, they're good. They're all right. You can still get away with like for example, before we went on air last week, I had my Deadpool t-shirt on. You can get away with wearing that. You can get away with that type of stuff. But when it comes to the high end looks, they just need to look really, really awful. It seems
Well,
like the higher up the classes that you go, the higher up the social status you go, the fashion gets shitter. It just winds
well,
up. It gets really really bad. So like some of the stuff I've seen, I seen like someone advertising, and it was like a potentially, it was like a like a purse for your junk, and I was
it's
like,
convenient.
yeah, but it was like one of those ones I'm like, what? And it's like all these weird piercing things down there too, and I'm like, I don't. There's a reason why we wear stuff over that. It looks disgusting. It looks like the
Well,
last chicken they found in the shop.
oh,
It's
if
just
you watch the like celebrities walking the red carpets right nowadays, and you
mm,
see them in these big massive ball gowns,
mm,
and they look like something. They look like a swan,
mm.
but they look like a swan that's been, put through a wood chipper. They just and they they think it looks great,
Yeah, it's
but I mean, like they look like what Cinderella would have looked like if a fairy godmother was drunk. That is what they look like, and they think that is great.
yeah, it is. It's just so unreal. Well, like I said, the higher you go up in social status, the worse it seems to get.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that
When I become a rich, famous celebrity, I'll be dressed like the Penguin from Batman.
oh,
Sophisticated in every way.
we talking Penguin from like the Gotham show, because that was very stylish suits that he wore.
Yes, him. I would wear him, not his face, but I'd wear his outfits.
Mm.
If I wanted to, if I wanted to like make a statement, I would be the Penguin from Michael Keaton days.
Oh,
That's what I would do,
yeah.
just to make a statement and
Mm.
say this is fashion. I
Mm.
could be like the male version of Lady Gaga. I mean, look at her style, by the way. Her style is very,
Yeah.
very edgy,
Mm.
but she went dressed up to an award ceremony as beef. I mean,
You don't know whether to compliment it, eat it.
and I would have ate it. I was hungry.
Yeah.
And then she goes dressed like she's Bubbles. You're like,
Mm.
how is that fashion? It's
Exactly.
unique.
It's something you put your kid in for a playground thing, just to make sure they don't get hurt.
Yeah, protection.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. And then you've got, I mean, like some of the clothes that the guys wear. I mean,
Mm.
most of celebrities are up that high, and you can compare this to the 90s to right now. Like the suits still look the same. They're a bit more sleeker, a bit more pinstripey nowadays. But the guys all tend to look the same unless you're Dappy from Endog, so you'll just wear a suit with a hat, and that's his fashion. But the guys' fashion from the 90s to now, it has changed, but not that dramatically,
Mm.
unless you're the Mad Hatter hosting a tea party. But the women's keep on changing,
Mm.
and it seems to be that it's more who's got the most wildest idea to dress this person up in, and then you're seeing them and you're thinking, you look like you should be going to a wedding, or you look like you should be going to a clown party.
Yeah, it's more
And it's
accurate with
like,
the latter one
oh,
than the former. Mm.
yes, and it's all kind of wacky, crazy designs, and they try to make out that regular people could wear this walking down the street. If you wore a bubble dress or a bubble shirt walking down the street, people would come up with a pin and burst it.
If you wore like something like that going through, say, one hall on a Saturday night, that wouldn't happen. You would be crucified.
Yes.
So, but this is tough. But I think, based on our arguments and based on currently what I'm thinking now, I think I've got to slightly give it to the 90s for
Slightly.
for the reason that some of the looks that they bring out now that everybody's like, "What are you smoking?" A lot of it is rip-offs from the 90s.
I mean, if you think about Fred from Scooby Doo, established in the 80s but brought his style into the 90s, and that style still rings clear in people's, or sorry, like people's eyes still glitter with glee when they see Fred from Scooby-Doo. I mean, Freddie Prinze Jr. did play him, and that did help a lot to go, woo! But, I mean, that was pretty, that was a kind of a class look that back in the 90s everybody did want, and you just don't see it in this day and age because it looks too cheesy. It looks like we're going to a 60s disco.
And it's one of those things that, well, the way with fashion is the same with like everything else. Well, every 30 years, something is seen as retro and makes a comeback. And that's kind of the way the fashion is going as well for the 2020s. Like 1990s designs are coming back into fashion. So the 21st century is all about retro and repeats, whereas back then it was new and it was fresh. Well, it's just, it really just show you that everybody had their ideas back then, and now we're just having to recycle it because we have none now.
We've had to recycle a lot of stuff because of COVID. So we're getting a lot more repeats of Friends than we'd ever like to see again.
I think that's the only positive that I've seen, that I still have to go into work.
No, I've got to work from home. I'm not going to lie, I love it. Not for the fact that, for the obvious reasons, but see, getting up at 8 o'clock in the morning to start a shift at 8:30, and all you have to do is roll out your bed and hit on your computer. Like, that's amazing to me. And I want to keep working from home.
Yeah, it wouldn't work for me because of the boys.
I'll just come to my house. Come work in my house, you'd love it.
Kind of defeats the point of working from home. I'm having to go to someone else's home.
That's the blonde hair underneath the brown coming through. That's the blonde moment.
Yeah. So I think overall, I think the 90s wins in our then be now challenge. It was very close. It was very close, but it probably doesn't help that I hate everything about present day. Well, aside from the cultural part that we touched on. Well, I think
that was so deep, wasn't it?
Yes, that was.
Maybe we should end it by saying blowies, everyone loves the blowy.
Just all of a sudden we start singing something from Book of Mormon or something like that.
Do you know what we should do? Obviously not with each other, but we should have a blowy Friday. That's what we should have. Blowy Friday to make 2021 that bit better.
Oh, AJ, I miss you so much. Oh man. Oh man. This has been absolutely brilliant, buddy. This has been brilliant.
Yes, it has been.
It's such a good catch up and just get to have a banter and a bit of a laugh, especially like nowadays we just don't get it.
I know. I can't wait to do it again.
Aye, definitely. You'll be back for the 4th season. Well, I think it's now got to be a staple. You've got to be back.
Yes, it's tradition now. It's tradition.
Yep, we've set it.
Maybe think another great day of maybe like Super Shagger Saturday.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I'll just see when the wife lets me out of the cage again.
She will.
Yeah.
She'll love me.
Yeah, she'll let me out the cage eventually. Like, sometimes she lets me out the cage and I'm like, do I have to go? I like the cage.
She has to push you out the door then?
Sometimes she has to just push me out of the room.
Oh.
I just like...
So you watch The Real Housewives?
Nah, it's just
more... I watched that.
It's just get out so I can have an extra 2 hours sleep.
Oh, bless her.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, looking after 2-3-year-olds the majority of the time while I'm at work, it's no easy. And then she's going for a shift. It's no easy task. Wow.
No, definitely not. She is a superwoman.
She is indeed.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, she is indeed. Just love her. Love her so much.
Oh.
AJ, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. Well, keep me up to date with how the book's going with the publishers and things like that, and just keep me updated in general where your life's going. So
yes, I will. You do the same.
Yep, I will indeed. So I better head off because I'll be up sharp with the boys wanting to watch Blue's Clues and you.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, 6:30 in the morning. I'm like, boys, I'm trying to take a dump. Get out of the bathroom. Eh,
When I'm
that-
still in my bed sleeping, I'll think of you.
Thanks. Love you too.
Yes, you know, you've
Yeah.
got my love.
Yeah. And thanks again for doing this, AJ. I really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll be able to catch up in a post-COVID world really soon.
Yes, that
Yep.
is good.
Well,
We
take
will
care.
do that.
Yeah. Take care and stay safe, buddy.
You too.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.